What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Now today I have a product review for you guys, and this one is going to be on the HILLPOW 6-port smart charging station that was recently sent out to me for review. So let's jump right into the box. Now inside you're going to get the charging hub itself, which comes in either black or white. You're going to get the power cable, and I was very surprised to also see 6 2-in-1 charging cables that will plug into both Apple and micro USB devices. They're each about 8 inches long, and while they aren't USB-C, meaning that you'll need an adapter for newer Android devices, it's still a super nice inclusion, because if your devices are compatible, you won't have to use the longer cables that come with them, which makes the setup look a lot less cluttered. It also means that you don't have to go and spend extra money on getting smaller cables if you wanted them. Also included is a small instruction manual that gives text specs and instructions on how to use the product, but for the most part, everything is pretty self-explanatory. I think that keeping tabs on our devices' battery levels can be a difficult thing for some people, especially if you have a lot of devices. And charging stations like these can be very useful because they create a single hub for keeping all of your devices charged up, and they do so in a very convenient way. Now, the HILLPOW Smart Hub looks as you would expect most charging stations to look like. You've got a power port on the front, 5 standard 2.4 amp USB ports, as well as a 3 amp fast charging USB port, which can be used to charge devices with a larger battery or give you a faster charge on something like an iPhone. On the top though is where you're actually going to be docking your devices and what you'll be seeing most of the time. Now you'll notice that the device charging brackets are not permanently fixed in place. You can actually fold them down into the charging station. Now this is somewhat of a nice feature because it makes the charging station more portable. It's much easier to put this into a bag or a case than something that has protruding brackets. Although I know that some people would get annoyed with having to constantly open and close the brackets when you want to dock your devices, or you might just not like the design in general. The charging station is super simple to use, like I would assume pretty much all of these devices are. All you have to do is open up the brackets, dock your devices, and connect them to the USB ports with the included cables, or cables of your own if you prefer. Although I do like the included cables because they are short, they're flat, meaning that they won't get tangled with other cables, and they generally just make the setup look a whole lot better than it would have with a bunch of excess cable. Pressing the power button and seeing all of the device's screens light up at the same time is a pretty cool effect too. Now, you'll have to be careful if you have a case on your device because it might not fit in the charging bracket. My iPad mini with a Belkin case was not able to fit on one side. However, my iPhone 6s with the Spigen Tough Armor case could be docked in whatever way that I wanted. Generally, larger, bulkier cases will have a harder time docking into the charging station than ones that are slim and lightweight. Now, this brings me to what probably is my biggest problem with this device: the location of the power port. The port, as I've said before, is located on the front of the charging station. Now, why is this a problem, you might ask? Well, because if you want to have the charging station set up to where the devices are facing towards you, which would honestly be the most ideal way of setting it up, it ends up looking something like this. Yeah, you literally have to run the power cable protruding out from the front of the charging station along the side and to the wall outlet. It looks awful. Now, you could use the charging station this way, but the look of it really bugs me, as I'm sure it would most people who try to keep their setups clean and free of, clutter and cable. I can only assume that the charging station was not designed to be used this way. If the station is set up on its side like this, it definitely looks much better. You still have easy access to both the power button and the USB ports, but the charging cable still protrudes out of the side, which could be an issue depending on where you're setting it up. Now, you could turn the station around to hide the power cable, but this makes the whole setup very inconvenient and difficult to use. This is due to everything being turned away from you, which means you're going to have to dock your devices in backwards. If you wanted to, you could dock your phones and tablets in like this, and while it might kinda sorta work, it is still not the way the product is intended to be used, and you're probably just better off plugging your phones and tablets directly into the wall. Now, the only explanation that I can come up with as to why the power port was placed where it is has to do with the internal power supply. Now, if you haven't noticed, the power cable with this device is a standard one-part AC power cable with no external power supply. Now, while this is a super nice feature because it means you don't have to carry around one of these bulky adapters when you want to use it, it also means that it's going to take up less space behind your desk or nightstand or wherever that you have it set up. But this convenience comes at a cost, and in this case, and I could be totally wrong here, but I'm thinking that it's the location of the power port. I assume that there was no other way to fit the power supply supply inside of the charging station, except for in the front, so they just decided to put it there. Now I'm all for internal power supplies because, like I've said, they take up less space, they leave a smaller footprint behind your desk, etc, etc. But in this case, I honestly would have rather had one if it meant putting the power port in the correct place. Also, there's this whole issue. Yeah, when you have it plugged in, it makes this odd sound that only gets worse when you plug devices into it to charge. Now this might have something to do with the power supply, but I most likely could have just gotten a bad unit. Overall, the HILLPOW 6-port smart charging station does what it claims to do. It does a fantastic job at charging up to 6 devices at one time in an organized and convenient fashion. I'm also a huge fan of the included USB cables, as I hate spending extra money to get the full functionality of a product, so it's super nice that they include them. However, the power port placement is a big deal for me. Now it might not be for you, and in that case you may want to consider the HILLPOW, but otherwise for $49.99 there are many other great options out there. So guys, I just want to thank you so much for watching my review video on the HILLPOW 6-port smart charging station. I want to give a huge thanks to the company HILLPOW for sending this out to me for a product review. And if you guys enjoyed this video and if you want to see more videos like this, definitely be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the near future. And as always guys, I will see you in the next video.